What exactly is a reservation? And I'm not talking about the ones that you make at a hotel or a restaurant. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what a reservation is, and in this case I mean an Indian reservation or Native American reservation. I'm going to talk about why I'm talking about this and my experience with it in this video, so stay tuned to find out more. Hi, by the way, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany. I lived and taught on a reservation for 5 years, and now I share ways that you can respectfully recreate on tribal land, visit reservations, and how you could even live and teach on a reservation if that's something you're interested in. On this channel specifically, on the res, I talk about ways that you can live and teach on a reservation. So let's talk about it. A reservation, in the simplest terms, is land that was set aside by European colonizers and settlers for Native American tribes. And there are so many sad stories about this. This is a very broad overview, but I will talk a little more in depth about the history behind each tribal reservation as time goes on. But that's the gist of it. Many reservations that exist today are not on the actual ancestral homelands of the tribe with which they're affiliated. In fact, if you haven't heard of the Trail of Tears, I would sincerely encourage you to look it up and just do a little bit of research. Many of the tribes that are in what we now call Oklahoma, for example, actually would come from where Florida is today. There has been a long history of broken treaties and agreements between what is now the United States, the US federal government, and the many tribes that are federally recognized all over the United States. And honestly, it's kind of hard to talk about this, but the reason I am, or at least one of the reasons, is we don't really cover it as much in American history. And this is not, by the way, for the US history teachers or social studies teachers watching this saying, yeah, we do, I teach about it. If you are, that's great, and I'm so glad that you are. And I know that I learned about it growing up because I happened to live right next to a reservation. I was literally across the highway, less than half a mile away from the boundary of the Torres Martinez tribe in Southern California. But if you don't live next to a reservation, or if you haven't met a tribal member, it can be really hard to be exposed to this information. You don't even know what you don't know. So in this video, I wanted to give just a definition. This is a really reliable source. This is from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the US Department of Interior. What many people don't understand is that there's a very tight and complicated relationship between what is now the US federal government and the governance of tribes. So while each tribe is considered an autonomous nation with their own government, with their own presidents, and even boards and departments, it's also really tricky because they also are doing this sort of dance politically with the US government. In the United States, there are 3 types of federal lands: military, public, and Indian. You're probably really familiar with public land already. That's our US national parks, that's Bureau of Land Management land that you can go camp on, and military is pretty self-explanatory. Those are our bases for the military, for the Air Force, for the Navy, for the Army, etc. A federal Indian reservation is an area of land reserved for a tribe or tribes under treaty or other agreement with the United States, executive order, or federal statute or administrative action as permanent tribal homelands, and where the federal government holds title to the land in trust on behalf of the tribe. I want to cover that last part there because it is a little bit confusing. So I lived and taught on a reservation for 5 years, and I taught on a state-run, Arizona state-run school on a reservation. And it's a really unique arrangement because even though the State Department of Education, Arizona Department of Education, was running the school, it was located on a reservation. The land is owned and managed by the tribe, but the school is run by the state. And there was also teacher housing that was run by the state, but also in partnership with the tribe. It's all very interesting. Like, we have our own district, just like you would on any other school in the state of Arizona, but we have to work in partnership with the tribe, and we're of course subject to all this tribal laws, in addition to the US federal laws, because we're on US federal land, because all tribal land is also US federal land. So when you see something like this, where the federal government holds title to the land, that means like they technically own it, but in trust and on behalf of the tribe, it means the tribe really gets to run it, and it's really like it's their own land. So on teacher housing, for example, you're on the reservation, even though it's run by the district, and it's really affordable because it's federally subsidized, right? There's monies set aside to make sure that housing is really affordable so they can attract and retain talent. Approximately 56.2 million acres are held in trust by the United States for various tribes and individuals. There are approximately 326 Indian land areas in the US. This was as of 2017, so the numbers have gone up since then. The largest is the 16 million acre Navajo Nation reservation located in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. And if you look at a map, you can see where it crosses, where those borders are. And the smallest is the 1.32 acre parcel in California, where the Pitt River Tribe Cemetery is located. Many of the smaller reservations are less than 1,000 acres. Some reservations are the remnants of a tribe's original land base, and others were created by the federal government for the resettling of Indian people forcibly relocated from their homelands. Not every federally recognized tribe has a reservation, and that's important to point out too, is that there are many tribes that are federally recognized that have no land attached, which has all kinds of social implications. Federal Indian reservations are generally exempt from state jurisdiction, including taxation, except when Congress specifically authorizes such jurisdiction. There are many questions about taxation. I'll get to that in another video, but basically it means there are special tax laws, especially if you are a tribal member living and working on a reservation. I can't wait to share more with you. I've already learned a lot since I was raised by my grandma. She was Shawnee, and she didn't get to grow up on tribal land or with her father, her family. I'll share more about that in a future video. I also talk about it on my Instagram account and get a little more personal there because honestly, YouTube freaks me out a little bit. I know so many strangers will see this eventually. And when she passed away in 2016, I was just devastated, and I knew that she didn't really get the chance to be a part of that family, to really learn about her own heritage and origin story there. I was already really conflicted with where I was living and working at the time. I was working in Phoenix. I knew I wanted something different. And then also just months before she passed away, I had gone on my first big international trip. So I knew that I wanted for travel to be a big part of my life. And I also knew I didn't want to spend my whole life working. COVID really drove that in, but I already knew I had to make a change. So unlike many teachers, when I went to go be a teacher and transition careers, it was actually kind of a break for me because in my role previous to that, I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, no joke. When my grandma passed away, that just solidified. I wanted to be close to my mom because I hadn't been able to know her, and I felt like there was a family curse of not knowing your parents, and I wanted to squash that. I also wanted to reconnect with my grandma's heritage, which was also a part of mine, even though I'm obviously a white lady, and I'm coming at it from that perspective. I wanted to connect with her in that way, and so I knew I wanted to be close to Native American culture. I knew I wanted to learn more about our heritage, our ancestry, our lineage, all of that, and so that's been a personal journey for me. From there, I've learned about Native American history, which is U.S. history, American history. Really, all Native American Indian history is our shared American history, and I've become really passionate about it. If you're following my store on Teachers Pay Teachers, you're going to find all kinds of resources, and you can share more of this with your students. And if you're not on there, if you just happen upon this video, thank you so much for watching to this point. If you're interested in Native American history and learning more about life on reservations, how you could possibly visit one, how you can recreate on tribal land respectfully, then I'd love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. You can also click the little like button to show YouTube that you'd like to see more of this, and hit the little bell so that you never miss notifications of when new videos are posted. If you have any questions, you're welcome to drop them down in the comments. If it's something more personal, or if you want to ask me something one-on-one, you can send me a DM on Instagram over at TeachBlogTravel. Thank you so much for watching.